Jimmy, page 33. When Jimmy and I were in our bunk beds, we talked about everything. Most of the time, I knew what he was thinking, and he knew my thoughts too. One time, Jimmy led a bunch of kids through a part of Ailes Woods we'd never explored before. It was hot, and the rest of us wore shorts, but Jimmy, he always wore heavy jeans because he liked to climb through thickets of briars and prickers. His face was sweaty and streaked with dirt. We just entered a sunny meadow, running full speed when Jimmy suddenly slammed on the brakes. He pointed at a wooden shack caved in on one side. "Come on!" he yelled. Jimmy climbed in. I heard a muffled cry, and then he climbed out again. Everyone gasped. He was triumphantly holding 2 fistfuls of snakes. There must have been 6 of them in each hand, garter snakes twisting in the sunlight, furious that their sleeping place had been disturbed. Another time, after a bad windstorm, Jimmy and I went hiking through a swampy part of the woods. The storm had knocked over a tree, and a shallow pool had formed in the crater left by the mass of uplifted roots. We went for a closer look, and as I moved to the water's edge, something lurked into the water. "Did you see that?" Jimmy asked. "Yeah," I nodded. "Looked like some kind of newt or salamander." "That was no ordinary salamander," Jimmy informed me. "Didn't you see the red on its gills?" At home, Jimmy searched through the World Book of Encyclopedia to find the animal he'd seen for a long time, and he sat on the living room floor paging through volumes A, amphibians, L, lizards, and R, reptiles. "Found it," he said, showing me the page. "A mud puppy. That's it. We saw a mud puppy." Mud puppy? I fell in love with the odd name, the funny picture it made in my head. The name clicked. Pretty soon all the neighborhood kids were calling the uprooted tree Mud Puppy Place, although we never did see any mud puppies after that day in the woods. School, age 7, page 37. It was time for me to start first grade. Jimmy stood with me at the bus stop. Mom waited with us. "What are we going to do in school?" Jimmy asked, frowning. "I don't know," I said. "Learn stuff?" "Why can't I come too?" "You're not old enough," I told him. "Next year," Mom said. Jimmy kicked a stone across the street. Finally, the bus rumbled up, huge and yellow. It opened its doors. Jimmy stepped back as I climbed the stairs. I found a seat next to my friend Steve Fishman and waved through the window. Mom waved and flashed a big smile, but my brother kept both hands at his sides. I liked school, and on the first day I knew I'd be good at it. I could just tell. I was good at figuring out what the teacher wanted me to do and exactly how she wanted me to do it. Add, read, copy letters, though my handwriting was terrible. I even liked the hot dog, wax beans, and fried potatoes they served for lunch. The day flew by. That afternoon, when I got off the bus, Jimmy was at the bus stop, tapping his feet, eagerly waiting for me. "Look!" He had a small animal skull in his hands. "What is it?" "I think it's a beaver," he said. "Too big to be a cat. I found the bones in the woods. Here, it's for you." The next day, when I stepped off the bus, he gave me an old wasp nest. Every day, as soon as I got off the bus, he'd hand me a treasure he'd found in the woods. I knew Jimmy would be going to school soon, and I was worried about him. I tried to get him ready for it. "It's not like home," I said. "You've got to follow the rules or you'll get in trouble." "What rules?" "Like you can't just talk whenever you want," I explained. "You raise your hand if you want to say something, okay?" "Okay." Eyes closed, he raised his hand and pointed straight up. "This is serious," I told him. "Do you know the Pledge of Allegiance?" "The what?" he asked. I made him stand with me in the kitchen, put his hand over his heart, and pledge allegiance to an imaginary flag on the wall. Jimmy groaned and rolled his eyes. "They say the pledge every morning, so you've got to know it, and you've got to know it by heart," I said, jabbing him lightly in the chest. "Better learn it now." The following September, the big day came. Jimmy held my hand and giggled nervously when the bus arrived. We ran up the stairs together, and Jimmy sat on the edge of his seat all the way to school. When we got there, a woman met us and pinned a paper circle to his shirt. My brother shot me one last look before the lady led him away. That day I spotted Jimmy only once, walking in a line with other kids, headed into the cafeteria. In the woods, he always knew exactly where he was. But standing in that noisy cafeteria with his freckles and thick glasses and cowlicky hair, Jimmy looked lost. When Jimmy got off the bus that afternoon, he went straight to the woods. I didn't see him again until supper time. That night, I asked Jimmy if he liked school. "Boring." He didn't want to talk about it. And that's the way it was for him every day. He'd come home and go straight to the woods. He didn't even wait to change out his school clothes or eat a snack. School was fine for a kid like me, because I knew how to shut up and listen. But it seemed wrong to take an outside kid like Jimmy and lock him inside for 6 hours a day. They should have had a different kind of school for Jimmy. Maybe a place with acres of unexplored woods and streams and swamps and steep rocky cliffs where he could spend hours making forts or digging for fossils and animal bones. In November, we got report cards. I sneaked a peek at Jimmy's. His grades were lower than mine. A lot lower. Which didn't make any sense. I knew that Jimmy was smarter than me, but on that report card there was no grade for knowing where snakes sleep in the heat of the day, for being able to tell the difference between the skull of a cat or a beaver, or a salamander or a mud puppy. It wasn't fair. But I told myself that the woods would always be the place where Jimmy learned best. In that school, he would always be a straight A student. First pen, age 8. When I was 8, Dad bought me a pen. It was just a cheap Bic, the kind with a clear barrel so you could see how much ink was left in the cartridge. Still, I loved it. In school, we wrote in pencil, so putting inked words onto a piece of paper really made me feel grown up. With that pen and a brand new notebook, I made my first story. I wrote it on a rainy Sunday sitting at the kitchen table while Mom made caramel apples with the little kids. The story was about a Major League Baseball player who batted 1,000 during his rookie year. The player was amazing. He got a hit every time he came to bat. No pitcher could figure out how to strike him out. It was fun writing that story, and it felt like a small miracle, too. First, there was nothing on the page, then the story appeared, written in ink that couldn't be erased. I sat for a long time wondering what to write next. I stared at my Bic, the cartridge filled with blue so dark it was almost black. What words were hidden, unborn, unwritten, in all that unused ink? Scuttlebutt, page 45. In class, we got seated alphabetically by our last names. Karen Ehrenberg always sat in the first seat, front row. Not only did Karen's last name begin with A, but the letter that followed was another A. So Karen Ehrenberg had a lock on that first seat, and she sat on it like no one on earth could ever take it away. Since my name last began with an F, I often got seated in the first seat, second row, right next to Karen Ehrenberg. That suited me fine. Maybe she was a little snotty, but I liked her face, especially those bright blue eyes. One morning we were having snack. I had just started to eat a carrot when I felt her eyes on me. "Have you heard the scuttlebutt?" she asked. Huh? I wasn't sure I heard her right. The scuttlebutt. Do you know what that word means? Yeah, I lied. It means gossip, she explained. Hey, I know. Well, have you heard the scuttlebutt? She asked again. No, I tried to look disinterested. Well, do you want to hear? She gave me a straight look. It's about you. Sort of. What? Leaning forward, she motioned me closer. Your mother is going to have another baby. I stared at her, unable to tell if she was mocking me or acting smug or enjoying the shocked look that must have plastered over my face. She simply stared back, and her face had never looked quite so wide awake as it did at that moment. No way, I finally said. It's true, she replied. Ask your mother. I had to sit through 4 more hours before I could check the truth of this story. When I got off the bus, I rushed into the house and kitchen. A girl in school told me you were going to have another baby, I sputtered. Is that true? Mom looked at me with raised eyebrows. Well, yes, she admitted with a shy smile. Isn't that wonderful? But why didn't you tell me? Dad and I weren't quite ready, she said. We were going to tell you in a few weeks. Who was the girl? Karen Ehrenberg. Oh. Mom nodded. I think I know what happened. I mentioned it to Polly Renshaw. Polly and Beth Ehrenberg are first cousins. Polly must have told Beth, and Beth told Karen. And Karen told me, I said. Mom, it would be nice if I knew before every other kid in school. You're right, Mom agreed. I'm sorry. By Christmas vacation, Mom was going around saying, I'm a house, aren't I? Nobody disagreed. She looked like she was about to burst. In late January, we all came home from school to find a new baby boy, Johnny, in the bassinet. Next school year, right after Thanksgiving, Karen motioned me close to her. I've got more scuttlebutt, she said softly. What? My cheeks burned like she just smacked me hard. A baby? Yep, another one. Karen gave me a knowing smile. Mom told me last night, hey, I'm trying to figure out all the kids in your family. Is this right? 7 kids? Am I missing anybody? She handed me a piece of paper with a list written on it. Ralph, Jimmy, Laney, Tommy, Bobby, Johnny, new baby. I turned away without answering. Her list was accurate, but I was so mad I couldn't even look at her, and Karen seemed to understand because she didn't say another word about it for the rest of the day. Are you pregnant again, Mom? I blurted out that afternoon. At first she looked confused. Oh, yes, goodness, I'm sorry, she apologized for not telling me, but what good did that do? That night at supper, Mom shared the news with the whole family. Lainey, this time when I go to the hospital, maybe I'll bring you back a little sister. Lainey smiled at that, but 4 months later, on the first day of spring, we all came home to find baby number 7, Joey, sleeping in the bassinet.